Molly reached out to me the other day, and she is a certified Google everything specialist. By the way, I'm Mike Eline. Everything that I do here is for a non-commercial purpose, trying to help people understand the law and understand SEO and marketing in an ethical way where you can survive on the internet because it's so crazy. And Molly is a Google certified partner and she's got all these crazy credentials. I'll let Molly tell you all of her credentials because there's so many it would probably take an hour, but I'll leave a link to her profile in here. So what's going on is I've had this never-ending battle with Google and social media sites. I believe that their crowdsourcing programs and allowing people to edit your listings and allowing all these problems with their algorithm creates an environment of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, not only with people who are trying to develop an online presence, but to shareholders and stockholders, because it makes people not trust the product. It makes people not trust Google. So like me, I've invested a ton of money into Google. I don't like it that it's almost like the only way you can get any kind of a consistent presence is if you use pay-per-click. And you'll notice that they keep pushing everything down. They get you addicted to being in the map for a couple of months, and then they blow you out. They allow competitors to change, delete. The more popular you get as a Google certified maps, whatever, the more power you get to destroy people. And, you know, other people like Molly may have a different take, but look, I'm a lawyer. I see it. I think there's a lot of unfair competition going on. And now we have this thing where if your competitor logs into Google and creates another LSA, they can make Google think that it's your listing and get your listing blown out. And I wanted Molly to talk a little bit more about it. So go ahead, Molly, introduce yourself and tell everybody what's going on.
Yeah, hi, my name is Molly Youngblood. I'm based out of Jacksonville, Florida. My agency's name is Design Right For You. I have been in this digital marketing space for about 15 years. And during my career, I've seen this scenario happen over and over again. And what happened yesterday, or actually 2 days ago, was prolific. I've never in my career seen anything like this happen. And it was one of my colleagues, Ben Fisher, who posted on Twitter about a business owner who had a legitimate LSA, so a local service ad. So let's define what is an LSA. So an LSA is a type of ad that Google offers to local business owners. And they work a little bit differently than pay-per-click ads. So instead of paying for a click, you're paying for a phone call. And there are a few other things that are associated with LSAs, like you have to get approved for it. It's not something you can just sign up for. You have to go through a verification process. You have to produce business license, headshot, insurance. There's a list of things that you have to do to get approved for an LSA. And what's disturbing to me about this latest scenario, about this business owner's LSA getting hijacked, is the fact that this is a legitimate business with legitimate documentation, following the rules, they're getting leads, and then all of a sudden one of their competitors creates an LSA and basically hijacks their legitimate LSA listing, which means they get nothing. They don't get any leads or phone calls or anything. And it was something I personally have never seen before. Now, I'm very, very familiar with Google business profiles getting hijacked. I see it all the time. Business owners will hire an agency. The agency will create and own the listing. And then if something happens with the business relationship, they leave town and the business owner is stuck with no listing. And so when I saw this yesterday, it just really blew my mind because to me, this is just another way for competitors to basically put business owners out of business. And in my book, that's not okay. So, I was a part of the thread. I deal with LSAs all the time. And to see something like this with such a blatant loophole was disturbing to me. And the ads liaison for Google did respond to Ben's thread. She did come back a little bit later and say this was an isolated incident, but that still is concerning to me because if it happened to one business owner, why would it not happen to another one? So that's my question for the day is, how did this even happen, and what are they going to do to prevent it from happening again? So, uh,
So I have a question for you. So I know there's a new like draconian verification process where they want, all this information, even insurance, even though not every city or state requires you to have insurance to have an office. Just all this crazy stuff that basically, but if you do their verification, where then you can advertise and they don't ask for any of that stuff, right? They have the paid stuff. The
mhm,
paid stuff they don't require as much stuff
correct.
that like they're not going to say, "Hey, give us proof of insurance," even though you're not required to have insurance for your city, right? Or give us proof of your business license, even though you're in a county like you're in Marina Del Rey, for example, where they don't issue business licenses. And then you've got to explain to someone in like India or something that, their catch all isn't working. So it all seems to funnel into, well, just do pay per click and you'll be okay. So we get people addicted to the opium of ranking in the map for a little while, like I said earlier, and then allow one of your competitors to blow you out of the map. And so then that leads you to, being forced to spend $500 a click or whatever. And because of the fact that we know that our competitors use click farms to blow us out on our daily bid scores, it leaves us with nothing other than just propaganda saying, oh, just, it's very rare that this happens. But, $500 is a lot of money for a click, or even $100 is a lot of money for a click in my realm. So why would we want to trust that system? So that's why I was saying earlier, maybe a shareholders derivative lawsuit would be the best way. That way you could do discovery and you could find out who these people are, like trace their accounts, trace their IPs, and find out who is it that's doing this. My guess is it's probably people who sell local services, like local SEO services. My guess is they're the ones who know how to destroy people's listings. And a lot of these people are buddies with people over at the Googleplex, so they probably have inside information. So someone like you who plays by the rules and does everything you're supposed to do, maybe you don't have a suitcase of money to bring up, to Mountain View and throw some cash around and take people out partying who work there. Maybe not, but that could be a case of something that's going on here. And it used to be back in the old days, Molly, that we were at a position where we could see the user account names of who was modifying and changing our listings. And Google took all that away. So the only way you can do it now is to file a lawsuit, is to find their information. And so I'm thinking that maybe a shareholders derivative lawsuit is the best way to go. Because really, when you think about it, it's probably a violation of Section 230 for Google to allow competitors to destroy each other with the end goal of trying to push people onto a pay-per-click product. That's just my theory. It doesn't make any sense why they would allow this unless it was to create all these problems so you'll seek the solution, which is just pay us and everything will be fine. And I wanted to know if you've heard things like that, if you've heard complaints about that, and what you feel about that, because I'm more biased than you. Go ahead, Molly.
Right. So, I actually had this situation happen back in 2019 where I had a client and their competitor, like literally every other week, was putting in information that was causing their listing to get suspended. And during one of my trips to Google, I believe it was the Boulder office that year, I actually bumped into the community manager for, well, at the time it was Google My Business, now it's Google Business Profiles. And I explained to her what was going on. I said, I've got this client and they keep getting suspended because their competitor can go in and, basically trick the system, right? So Google Business Profile is a system. It's not a group of people sitting at Google, sitting there monitoring your listing. No, it's absolutely ran using a system. And I explained to her that this is a real problem for some of my clients, and she explained to me that the reason Google has Google Business Profiles as open source is to support the Google Local Guides program, which Google Local Guides, they're, most of them are legitimate people. I mean, they're adding pictures, they're, adding information relevant to the business. But unfortunately, as you pointed out earlier, a lot of SEO companies, they are manipulating the system. And I've even spoke with a couple other people in the digital marketing industry. And at one point, one of them did have the ability to lock a listing. But Google found out about it and they reached out and they said, you got to stop. You just, you can monitor the listing. You can provide monitoring services for the listing, but you can't actually lock it. And to me, that's a real problem because, like what happened with this LSA, which is brand new. It's never happened before, at least as far as I know of. That presents another problem. And I think really what it's about is business owners need to closely monitor the listing because there really is no safe hold in place right now. I do offer monitoring services for Google Business Profiles because a lot of business owners, they just don't have time. They're busy running their business, but at the same time, they really depend on that listing for leads. And when that listing goes down, they're out of the game. I mean, they're nowhere. And I would say probably 85% of my business is Google Business Profile reinstatements. So it's one of those things that there's no fix as of yet, except just being very professional. And if you don't have the time to monitor the listing, find a legitimate service that will monitor the listing for you.
Right. So, I used to have these arguments with Bill Slosky when he was still alive. I don't know if you guys remember him, but he had SEO by the Sea, and he was a really good friend of mine. He was a lawyer who just decided, I guess, not to take the bar, but he was an expert when it came to deciphering Google's patents. And he would always say, oh, no, everything they're doing is above board. It's just an algorithm. And my retort was always, yeah, but the algorithm is being programmed by someone with a bias. And I believe still to this day that like their rank modifying spam filters and all these other things that they're doing are designed to blow people out of organic search so they'll be forced into pay-per-click. And I've seen so many different people come up with the same argument. The problem is no one has been able to successfully challenge what they're doing. But I definitely don't believe that allowing someone to unfairly interfere with your business under the guise of it being a crowdsourcing program holds water. I don't believe that it would ever pass judicial muster. And I believe that we need to start taking steps to protect ourselves. Remember, everybody was terrified of Google until ChatGPT came along and people started using Bing, and people are now more outspoken about the unfairness. But they've always kept people terrified. Nobody wants to say anything bad about them. So they just get away with a lot more. But now that we see what's really going on out there, I mean, this is totally unfair. And this is one of many, many, many things that happen almost daily. Well, they'll just blow your listing out. And now they're requiring this draconian verification process, which is absolutely crazy because so many of the things that they're requiring are not required under the city or local municipal codes of where these people have businesses. So,
yeah, I can speak about that. So, again, I deal with a lot of reinstatements, and you're absolutely correct. Some states, some municipalities, they don't require a business license. Maybe they just require DBA. That's the case with me. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. They don't require me to have a license, but they do require me to have a DBA. So I'm registered with the state. And when I'm dealing with clients, I get this pushback all the time about, I don't have to have a license. All I'm required to do is to have, insurance and a DBA, and that's it. And normally when I go through that process, I will say the team on the Google Business Profile team, they do take that into account. So just because you may not be required to have a business license where you're located, and Google's saying, oh, you need to send in a business license in order to get your reinstatement done, isn't always necessarily the case, because I have successfully reinstated suspended listings with just a DBA and utility bill. But I totally understand where you're coming from in terms of it being confusing to the business owner, because it's bad enough that your listing's reinstated and then you're being asked for all this documentation that you're not required to have, and you're just like freaking out because like, I don't have to have that. But it's one of those things that I think they try to do this across the board, right? But they do take it on a case-by-case scenario if you're ever in that predicament.
Well, that's if they're lucky enough to have you helping them. But an average person is just going to get frustrated and just give up and be like, hey, I guess we're just done with Google because we're not going to pay all this money for clicks when they still haven't addressed click fraud ever. They just say that everything's fine, but there's nobody ever addresses it. I mean, telling people who've been doing this for 20 years that it's fine when we know it's not is almost like patronizing us. And that brings me to another thing, Molly, is we have a situation now where Google reviews are becoming more important. Just yesterday, My Business got hit with a review that 3 other law firms got hit with, talking about how we don't do medical cases, but other sources on the internet say that we do, and therefore we're lying. And now we have these 1-star reviews all over our listings. You complain about it to Google. These are not clients. Clearly, if you look at their history, they're doing the same review to every single law firm in LA. And Google just blows it off and allows people to give us 1-star reviews. To me, that is totally unfair because there's no proper appeals or grievance process. These are people who are unfairly competing with our businesses, and there's a high probability that they work for one of our competitors or one of these SEO company who's trying to gear the system to knock out your listing in the map and bring their client's listing up. These are the only people smart enough to be able to do that. So it stands to reason it's probably people with inside information about the Google Maps program. What do you think?
Yeah, reviews are a tricky subject. I've dealt with that some similar scenario. Even my own business received a 1-star review years ago from somebody I never even worked with, and I reported it, and it's still there. So I feel your pain because I've had it happen to myself. In terms of reviews. I've asked several times, several Googlers, several other product experts, and they're like, everybody's entitled to leave a review. But I absolutely agree with you that there should be some type of safe hold system in place where if there is, I would consider that a spam review because they're not a client, they're not a colleague, they're not anybody you've ever associated with before, that they should be allowed to report that. And you can. They do have a way to report a review, but I really think that it needs
doesn't
to be,
work.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. It's a joke.
Yeah, it definitely has some room for improvement. But yeah, typically when I have a client come to me and express a scenario, I will tell them report the review. That's really all I can do as a SEO is just guide them, right? As the only thing that I know to do. I will say this though. One of the things I do tell business owners that if they do get a negative review is to respond to it. That's exactly what I did. So when I got this negative review, I responded to it. I'm like, listen, I don't know who you are. I've never done business with you before. I don't know why you're leaving me this review. And by doing that, you at least save some face in the public because people can see, okay, well, at least this person is interacting with the reviews and they're saying this is not a legitimate review. So that would be my advice for now until they can improve the process.
Well, I appreciate that, Molly. And I always like it that you try to be evenly keeled and level-headed about it. It's just that I have all these lawyers complaining that these SEO companies who are selling local services will start calling them a couple of days after they get these negative reviews. And they're told by these local SEO companies if they hire them, they can get rid of the reviews. So it just makes me wonder, how bad is this program being exploited? Because I believe if Google would start sharing the information about the people trying to destroy us like they used to, that the fraud and the lies and the deception would probably almost disappear. Because now these people know that we can find them again. I was able to track down the people who were doing it to me before, and they definitely heard from me. But now the way it happens is you have to file a lawsuit against Google or against these other people as DOE defendants and then conduct discovery. So it's very, very expensive. So Molly, what I wanted to do is I know that today's live webinar, whatever you want to call it, was kind of a disaster because we had a bunch of people that were supposed to join us. What I would like to do is obviously let this thing queue up and share it with the people that we invited on Twitter, and then invite them all back again for tomorrow, perhaps on the weekend, if you're not busy, to try and get some of these other people and get their opinions, because perhaps, just perhaps, we could form some kind of a lawsuit and blow this thing open and try to help all these business owners. That probably would be the best thing. And I'm not necessarily saying we sue Google, but what we do is we sue as DOE defendants the people who are messing with our listings, because we're all potential plaintiffs. All of us who have had our listing interfered with are potential plaintiffs. So maybe what we do is we build a lawsuit and we pool our money together. Maybe get the FTC or whoever it is that helps with regulation involved, because to me, something is underhanded. I would never, if I was a publicly traded company like Google, I would never allow open source to be used as a pretext to destroy people. There's a way that you can do this like they had it before. Before, you could identify who these people were by their account names. It would be much easier to file a lawsuit if you have their account names, because Google can provide that information easily. But now you got to sue, you got to go through Google, defeat all their trade secrets arguments and everything else to try to get this data. It's extremely expensive. And at the end of the day, we've got like hundreds of one-star reviews, probably written by an SEO company, who's always reporting your listing, right? Trying to get you in trouble. And that's the big problem. All these SEO, these self-righteous local SEO guys, they're probably the biggest criminals out there. And they're doing everything they can to hurt you and enrich the people that are paying them. And I think that's totally unfair. What do you think?
I have actually had clients sue people that they knew stole their listing. I had this one client, oh gosh, it was a mess. I mean, it went on for like over a year trying to help this lady. And she ultimately sued the person who hijacked her listing. It was a scenario, I'm not going to get too specific, but basically she was renting a space and she was co-using the laptop that was available in this space. It was a marina, so it's not, like an office type scenario, and they had a conflict, they had a disagreement. And during the process, she had actually requested her business profile to get verified. And before the postcard, and this shows how old this is because it was a postcard method. But before, I'm kind of dating myself here.
Yeah.
Before she got the postcard, she wound up leaving. And this business owner logged onto the computer. She hadn't removed her Google business profile. He logged into her account and he verified the business. And then he changed everything. He changed everything to his business. He had redirects going to his website. I mean, it was a mess. And this lady, she wound up hiring an attorney. They took him to court. She actually asked me to be an expert witness because I had been there the whole time trying to help her.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the judge found for her, and he was ordered to pay restitution on potential clients that she had missed out on. I believe he was dinged for impersonating a business. So, I mean, what you're saying is viable, but as you pointed out, the only reason this lady was able to do it is because she had proof that this guy had logged into her account and did this. In the way that things are set up now, like you said, we don't have that information. We don't have that ability to know who's changing information on profile. Now, in regards to reviews, you do have that information because the person who leaves the review, they do it under their account, so you have that. But these, like you said, it could be local SEO companies, it could be competitors. We don't know. Well,
at least we have a name. So now if we file a lawsuit, we can trace that IP through Google and find out their address or where the signals are being emitted from. So
absolutely.
So Molly, I think that, oh, look, and we have Anything But Aviation who joined us. I don't know if you see that in your sidebar. So we actually got somebody off YouTube. That's awesome for our first video. It looks like, can you hear me now, Molly?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Looks like you went mute for a second. So here's what I'd like to do, Molly. You can be like the Pied Piper and try to share this crummy video that we did. Just tell people to ignore the first couple minutes. And then tomorrow we could have, if you wanted to, we could do it tomorrow, or we could reschedule for like Monday or Tuesday, where it's like during the week, and try to get a full team on board. What I would like to do, my goal here is to form an alliance of lawyers who are getting their listings screwed with and pool our money together so we can bring an action, maybe a class action, to stop this nonsense. Because it's clearly an unfair business practice to allow other people look, I understand Google it's a private company, but when Google's not acting as a good Samaritan, that's one thing. But when they're making changes to their platform or allowing their platform to harm other people, that's doing evil. And that has to be stopped. And it could just be that since Larry left, there's no more leadership there. It could just be that they're driving the company into the ground. And that could very well be the case. But either way, I hold a lot of stocks in Google. I mean, Google was my baby that was going to retire me. So I have a vested interest as a shareholder. And if you have any shares in Google, I mean, all of us are victims here, because now if all these lawsuits start getting filed, you and I are paying for that as shareholders. They got to hire lawyers to do these discovery requests. In reality, there should just be a way to be able to readily identify who's doing this to you. You'd probably see half of the reviews disappear overnight. All the 1 stars would go away, because I guarantee you it's going to be traceable to a family member, a friend, or an SEO company of one of these people, most of them. Most of these crap reviews, and probably the good ones, but I don't care about the good ones, right? Because that's not what's hurting me. The bad ones are the ones that are hurting me, and these people know that. What do you think, Molly?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's unfortunately in our industry there are black hat SEOs. That's just the way it is. I've always practiced white hat, but I agree. I mean, something needs to be done about it, because it's a problem. It's a problem that's existed for a long time, and your idea of maybe forming some type of alliance for the lawyers certainly is a good one. It's something that can be explored for sure.
All right. Well, that being said, I'll chat with you offline about setting up a better video conference. But everybody, I just want you to know who Molly is. And Molly, share your contact information with these people, because there's a lot of people out there who are having problems right now with their verifications that at least you could help get that solved for them. Go ahead, Molly.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, so the best way to contact me is either via email or text. My email address is geigermeister.molly@gmail.com. I'll spell that out real quick. It's GEIGERMEISTER.MOLLY@gmail.com. Or you can call or text me. My telephone number is 904-314-4057. I'm pretty much available 24/7. I'm always working, so if you message me, call me, email me, you should receive a response from me within 24 hours.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, Molly. And again, I apologize for the technical stuff. I just started using StreamYard, and I really like it. But this is the first live and webinar that I've tried to do. So what I learned today is it looks like a webinar is only to take typed questions, where I kind of put on a show for people. And then the video conferencing thing is the one we're in now. That's the one that I need to use next time. But I think after some of the people from that Twitter post watch this, they're going to want to come back, because look, we're at our wits' end, especially as lawyers. I mean, we know this is totally wrong. This doesn't pass the smell test. You can't let people come in and destroy your business as a service provider like a Google, and then say, "Oh, it's not our problem. It's crowdsourcing. We can do whatever we want." It's like, no. Because now you're going to have to face a whole plethora of lawsuits of people trying to find out who's destroying their business, which all of those lawyers are going to make millions of dollars off of your shareholders on. So I want, to hold them accountable the same way they hold us accountable for so-called black hat or manipulating the search results, or as they push us further and further down the page towards just like Excite, where all the organic results are gone. It's just crazy. If they were running the business properly, they could still be displaying the organic results and still be making good income. But instead, it's almost like this cat and mouse game and this like purposeful environment of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And then they fuel it with a few SEO companies that are insiders over at Google. That's got to stop. If you agree with me, let's get back on this thing again, everybody, and join me on this adventure as we try to hold Google accountable and other search engine companies, including Facebook. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and do something really fun, because I've always wanted to do this, Molly. I'm going to go ahead and put some really cool patriotic music. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. All right, guys. I'll see you soon. I'm going to close this thing out. Thanks, Molly, for coming.
All right, bye.
Arr!